In this video, we're going to look at the SAS code for Module 7. So the very first thing you want to make sure you do is have all of the files that you need on your computer in a folder where you know where they are. So for example, here's the folder I've been working out of. So you'll notice we've got some of the files that we created back in the Module 6 video, but I also have the module SAS 7 now. So let's click on it and open it up in SAS. All right. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that data set that we created back in Module 6. And so if you'll remember in these videos, I'm working with the Kentucky data from 2018. Your data will be from another state. And so notice here we're going to use the proc import statement, much like we did in the Module 6 video. Here we're going to tell SAS in the work library, I want you to create a data set called KY _ 2018 _ BRFSS. And then the file where we want to read this from, remember we needed to give it a file path and the name of the file, and we can get that by looking at our folder where we have the data stored. And again, remember the data that we want to read in this time is that state-specific data. So let's go ahead and run this. All right, checking our log, it looks like everything read in. We've got those 6,604 observations and 275 variables. Now in Module 7, we're primarily looking at summarizing quantitative variables, and we start off by looking at dot plots. Well, there's not a real easy way to make dot plots in SAS, but more importantly, this data set has over 6,000 observations. So summarizing these quantitative variables with a dot plot isn't necessarily the best idea anyways. We're probably going to want to use a histogram. So we're going to focus on histograms here. So we just have this little bit of code on how to create a histogram. So the first thing you need to do is pick which quantitative variable that you want to summarize. So the one that I'm going to look at is number of women in the household. So if we go to our code book here, I'm interested in number of women. And so we'll see that this variable is right here. And it tells us the number of adult women that are in the household. So we could have anywhere from 0 up to 99, but realistically we know there's probably going to be somewhere less than that. All right, so let's go back to our SAS code. So I'm going to use that proc sgplot that we used before in the Module 6 SAS code. I'm going to tell it the data I want it to use is the Kentucky 2018 BRFSS data. I'm going to give my histogram a title. So let's go ahead and run this and we'll talk about some of those different options. So running, here is our histogram. So going back to our code, let's look at what some of these different options did. Well, the title option obviously gives us a title. And we're going to tell it what type of plot we want to make, and we want to make a histogram, and then I tell it the variable name. Now some of the other things that we have following here, 1 bin width is equal to 1. Since this data was discrete, it made sense to me to have just a bin width of 1. For other types of quantitative data, maybe if it's not discrete, you may just want to leave that option off. The scale equals count. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. This option right here changes the color, so you could do a color other than red. The y-axis we've labeled as count, and the x-axis as women. Now, we might want to, instead of just women here, maybe have number of women. This histogram was made using the counts, and so that's actually where scale equals count comes in. If we leave this out, instead of doing the frequencies, the bar chart will represent the relative frequencies, or the percent, so we would want to change the y label to percent. So let's run this. And notice we get the exact same shape of the histogram, but our y-axis has changed, one to reflect the frequency or the count, and one to reflect the relative frequency or the percent. All right, so as usual, this is just enough code to get you started as you work with your individual variables and things that you're interested in, or maybe things that you want to do. This code may not be enough, and if that's the case, feel free to post to the discussion board or ask me questions. There's also that folder on Canvas about SAS code that has other tutorials and things that you can look at.